Hey there, Doc. We are getting towards the end of this series. Today we are talking about number 8 of the 9 things that you need to do in order to get ready for 2014. And today we're going to be talking about money, which is a pretty charged subject. We're not going to be talking about the philosophy of it or anything like that. We could get pretty deep into that stuff. I really just want to talk about the numbers and what you need to do in order to get your practice ready, because obviously money is important. You can't run a business if you have it. There's a lot of chiropractors out there that do fantastic work, but they don't need to have enough money to keep the doors open. So you've got to pay attention to it, and you've got to make sure that it works for you instead of against you. So step 8 is to do a financial checkup on your practice. Find out what's coming in, what's going out, and then make a plan for next year of how you want that to look. And we talked in number 1 about setting goals, and hopefully next week on Thanksgiving you're going to be setting some goals for your practice, but also your personal life, on how much money you want to make or need to make. Sometimes people are just looking at what they need to make. And too often I come in and docs don't have any goals at all. So again, next week when you're sitting down for your goals, or whenever you do it towards the end of this year here, make sure you're looking at how much money you want to bring into your practice. And I said bring in, but obviously it's not so much about what you bring in as how much you take home. So we've got to set it up from both angles. How much comes in and how much goes out. So the first step in your financial checkup really is to start a budget. And the first place to look in starting a budget is look at what you did this year. Look at what went out all year long in every category. Hopefully you're keeping it in the QuickBooks or something like that. I don't find many budgets, quite honestly, when I travel around the country and talk to doctors. So you'll be ahead of the curve if you do this. But look at what you spent this year. Look at where you can cut stuff out. But my biggest warning in setting up a budget is to not budget yourself into a hole. And too often I see that as well. People are afraid to spend money, which would increase their productive capacity. And yet we spend money that does nothing for our productive capacity. So really go through this year's spending with a fine-tooth comb and figure out what produced and what didn't. Let's cut the stuff that didn't for 2014. If you were using some sort of a marketing service or something of that nature that was costing you a few $100s a month, and you just kind of kept doing it, you can get out of that, get out of it. If it didn't produce, that is, obviously. There's other services that we sign up for and we get going. It's just a couple $100s a month and we don't pay much attention to it. Find those things, cut them out. We talked about simplifying and purging stuff too. Very good place here. Look at the budget. Look at what you've spent this year and start getting ready for next year. So cut anything you possibly can. But again, my caveat there is please do not budget yourself into that hole. Don't budget yourself to a point that you can't produce because you're not spending any money to increase your productive capacity and or fill that space. So let's get a budget in place month by month, something we can track going through 2014 so that we're in charge of our money and our money is not in charge of us. So pay a lot of attention to that. Second thing I want to talk about is your accounts receivable. Let's make sure that there are systems in place for collecting the money that we bill out. Whether you're billing insurance, you're just all cash, you still have to have systems in place to collect that money. So both for the insurance world, if you're in insurance, then I certainly recommend that your staff be looking at all of your accounts receivable right now. Figure out what is collectible and what's not collectible. And if it is collectible, let's put a system in place to collect it from the insurance company. So let's go after it aggressively. Let's follow up here towards the end of this year. A lot of my insurance practices have a tough time in January, February, it being deductible season. So now would be a great time to really get some increased cash flow. So what I recommend at this point is really to take all your accounts receivable that hasn't been paid by insurance company, and too often we don't follow up with that, so it's just kind of sitting there. My advice right now is to resubmit all of that, if at all possible. So look at your contracts with different insurance companies. I just say resubmit it all. If it hasn't been taken care of, instead of picking up the phone and making the phone call, I just want to resubmit it. You can even resubmit it as a duplicate and let them know that you've submitted it before, but that you haven't gotten a response and get it back. What that does is by resubmitting all that, sometimes, again, we get a good cash flow coming up here in January, February, which will pick up some of that deductible season for you. On top of that, let's put systems in place so that we don't get a big accounts receivable again if you're doing insurance. Let's make sure that we are following up with that. And that might mean outsourcing your billing in some cases. I'm not a big fan of outsourcing the billing portion of it. And if you can do it in-house, if you can get the bills out, you can collect what we call the low-hanging fruit, the money that just gets paid. The problem isn't so much the billing. The problem is the follow-up. So my recommendation to smaller practices especially is keep the billing in-house. it's easy to push a couple buttons and get the bills to go out. Money that comes back in is obviously easy to do the EOBs. That doesn't take up much time, and paying 7-8% to a billing company for that money is kind of tough. I like to outsource the follow-up. So what I like to do in smaller practices is to send the bills, collect the money, and then whatever doesn't get paid, send that report to somebody, hire somebody, whether it be someone local that just picks up the phone and starts making phone calls, or there are companies out there that will do that for you. But just make sure that we are following up on that money, so again, next year we don't have the accounts receivable issues that we might be having right now. Last but not least in all of this is looking at your patient collections. Putting together a system to, again, that we are getting paid either at the time of service or before that service. We can't be falling behind on the patients. Too often I go into a practice, and again, they just have patient accounts receivable that are out of control. I have one in particular, a client of mine that when I asked the staff what their biggest hassle was, they said every month sending those bills out. They just had stacks and stacks of bills that had to go out for small amounts, $50, $100, a couple $100. And it was really frustrating because those patients were people that they liked and they wanted to see back in, but they probably weren't coming in because of the bill that was unpaid. So my recommendation first and foremost is get a system in place that we get paid ahead of time by making payment arrangements with people so that we don't have problems down the road. Don't let them go a few visits without paying, because then obviously we have to collect that money later. And number two, this time of year, I recommend you go through your entire list of people who do owe you money and make a choice. Make a choice whether to go after them aggressively. If they did something wrong in the practice, they left you hanging with a bill. Small claims court is sometimes a good option. But more often than not, these are good people that probably want to come back to your office, but they might be scared. In that case, I typically recommend this time of year, give them a great gift. Just forgive it. Forgive that receivable. Send them a letter, say, hey, we've attempted to collect this, and quite honestly, we'd much rather have you as a patient than to worry about this. So we've gone ahead and written off this balance. Come back in the new year and see us. I guarantee you, my client that we did that with aggressively, they saw a lot of those patients come back in, was more than worth the money that they gave, they forgave by getting those patients back in the office. So also kind of goes back to the simplify and purge thing I talked about earlier. It also made their job a lot easier. Every month they didn't have that stack of paperwork to go out. So it just makes things easier. It takes that off, and you kind of gets that weight off your shoulders and will allow you to go into 2014 feeling good. So do your financial checkup, get your budget in order, make sure your accounts receivable are in place so that you can be very profitable next year.